The year is 1949. The world is still recovering from war. Europe is rebuilding its cities brick by brick. And in the Middle East, something new has just begun. A nation has been born. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared. It was a moment that had been centuries in the making. A homeland, a promise, a new beginning. And just 5 months later, on October 21, 1949, in the city of Tel Aviv, a boy was born. His name was Benjamin Netanyahu. He was the second of 3 sons. His older brother was Yonatan. His younger brother was Ido. Their family called the new baby Bibi. A simple nickname, easy to say, easy to remember. It would one day be known around the world. The Netanyahu family was not an ordinary family. They were deeply connected to Jewish history, to scholarship, to the idea of a Jewish homeland. This was the world Benjamin Netanyahu was born into. A young country, a proud family, an uncertain future. And as the baby slept in Tel Aviv that October night, no one could have known what kind of life this child would lead. No one could have known how many times he would stand before the world, how many decisions would rest on his shoulders, how many years he would carry the weight of a nation. But all of that was still ahead. For now, there was only a family, a new country, and a child named Bibi. Tonight, we follow his story, slowly, calmly, from the very beginning. Close your eyes if you wish. We have a long journey ahead. The year is 1949. The world is still recovering from war. Europe is rebuilding its cities brick by brick. And in the Middle East, something new has just begun. A nation has been born. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared. It was a moment that had been centuries in the making. A homeland, a promise, a new beginning. And just 5 months later, on October 21, 1949, in the city of Tel Aviv, a boy was born. His name was Benjamin Netanyahu. He was the second of 3 sons. His older brother was Yonatan. His younger brother was Ido. Their family called the new baby Bibi. A simple nickname, easy to say, easy to remember. It would one day be known around the world. The Netanyahu family was not an ordinary family. They were deeply connected to Jewish history, to scholarship, to the idea of a Jewish homeland. This was the world Benjamin Netanyahu was born into. A young country, a proud family, an uncertain future. And as the baby slept in Tel Aviv that October night, no one could have known what kind of life this child would lead. No one could have known How many times he would stand before the world. How many decisions would rest on his shoulders. How many years he would carry the weight of a nation. But all of that was still ahead. For now, there was only a family, a new country, and a child named Bibi. Tonight, we follow his story, slowly, calmly, from the very beginning. Close your eyes if you wish. We have a long journey ahead. To understand Benjamin Netanyahu, you must first understand his father. Benjamin Netanyahu was born in Warsaw, Poland in 1910. He was a scholar, a historian, a man of deep conviction. As a young man, Benjamin became a devoted follower of Zev Jabotinsky, one of the founders of revisionist Zionism. Revisionist Zionism had a clear and simple belief: the Jewish people needed a homeland, not someday, not eventually, now. Benjamin carried this belief with him his entire life. He passed it to his children. He passed it to Benjamin. Benjamin Netanyahu was also a brilliant academic. He spent decades studying the history of the Jewish people. He edited major encyclopedias. He wrote books that are still read today. But despite his achievements, Benjamin struggled to find a permanent position at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. He believed the university rejected him because of his political views, because he was too outspoken, too uncompromising. And so, in 1963, Benjamin made a difficult decision. He moved his family to the United States, to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he had been offered a teaching position. Benjamin was 13 years old. For a boy who had grown up in Jerusalem, the streets of Philadelphia were a different world entirely. Different language, different culture, different rhythms. But Benjamin made sure his children never forgot where they came from. He spoke to them about Jewish history at the dinner table, about survival, about the importance of strength. These conversations shaped Benjamin deeply. The idea that the Jewish people must always be prepared, that weakness invites danger, that a nation must be willing to defend itself. Years later, Benjamin Netanyahu would say that his father was the greatest influence on his life. Not a politician, not a general, a historian. A man who believed that understanding the past was the only way to survive the future. And so the boy named Bibi grew up in the shadow of his father's vision. Quiet, watchful learning. Always learning. We continue our story. We continue our story. Benjamin Netanyahu grew up in two very different worlds. The first world was Jerusalem, ancient, layered heavy with history. A city where the past is present in every stone, every street, every wall. He was born there, he learned to walk there. He heard Hebrew spoken in the markets and prayers rising from the old city with the early morning light. Jerusalem shaped something deep in him, a sense of place, a sense of belonging, a feeling that this land mattered, that it had always mattered. But then, in 1963, everything changed. Benjamin was 13 years old when his family packed their belongings and moved to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. America was loud, fast, colorful. Teenagers wore different clothes, listened to different music. There was a counterculture rising across the country. Protests, change, uncertainty. Benjamin did not quite fit in. Neither did his older brother, Yonatan. The two brothers found American youth culture shallow and confusing. They missed something they could not easily name: a depth, a seriousness, a sense of purpose. But Benjamin adapted. He was sharp and competitive. He joined the debate club at Cheltenham High School. He played chess. He played soccer. He learned to speak English with clarity and confidence, a skill that would serve him for the rest of his life. Between 1963 and 1967, the Netanyahu family moved back and forth between the United States and Israel. Two countries, two languages, two identities. Most teenagers struggle to find themselves in one world. Benjamin Netanyahu was navigating too. And yet, something was becoming clear. Even as a young man, he knew where he belonged. Israel was not just a place he had come from. It was a place he would return to. In our next chapter, we follow Benjamin to the final days of high school, into a decision that would change the course of his life. Rest now. We are only beginning. We continue our story. It is the mid-1960s, and Benjamin Netanyahu is a teenager in America. He attends Cheltenham High School, just outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. On the surface, he looks like any other student. He walks the same hallways. He sits in the same classrooms. He eats lunch in the same cafeteria. But inside, he is different. While his classmates talk about music and movies, Benjamin is reading about history and politics. While others are caught up in the counterculture of the 1960s, Benjamin feels strangely distant from it all. He is competitive, focused, serious. He joins the debate club. He plays chess. He plays soccer. And he talks often and well, even as a teenager. Benjamin Netanyahu has a gift for language, for argument, for persuasion. His English is becoming flawless, clear, confident, precise. But the person who shapes him most during these years is not a teacher, not a coach. It is his older brother, Yonatan. Yonatan Netanyahu is everything Benjamin admires. Strong, principled, deeply serious. The two brothers spend hours talking about Israel, about Jewish history, about what it means to be part of something larger than yourself. Yonatan is already thinking about returning to Israel, about serving in the military, about defending the homeland their father never stopped talking about. And Benjamin listens. In the spring of 1967, something happens that makes the decision for both of them. Tensions in the Middle East are rising fast. Arab nations are mobilizing around Israel's borders. War feels inevitable. Benjamin is 17 years old. He's days away from finishing high school. He takes his final exams early. and then he packs his bags. America had given him language, sharpness, confidence, but Israel was calling him home. In our next chapter, we follow Benjamin across the ocean, back to the land he was born in, and into the uniform of a soldier. Sleep well. The story continues. We continue our story. It is the spring of 1967. Benjamin Netanyahu is 17 years old. He is finishing his final year at Cheltenham High School in Pennsylvania. But something is happening far away, something that cannot be ignored. In the Middle East, tensions are rising. Egypt has closed the Strait of Tyran to Israeli ships. Arab armies are gathering along Israel's borders. The language of war is filling the air. For Benjamin, the news from Israel is not something distant. It is personal. His family, his country, his home. He does not wait for graduation. He takes his final exams early. He says goodbye to Philadelphia, and he boards a plane to Israel. He is 17 years old. When he lands, the Six-Day War has already begun. Israel fights on 3 fronts simultaneously: Egypt, Jordan, Syria. In just 6 days, Israel defeats all 3. It is one of the most remarkable military victories in modern history. Benjamin arrives in the middle of all of this, young, eager, determined. He enlists immediately in the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF. He does not ask for an easy assignment. He does not look for comfort or safety. He applies for Sayeret Matkal. Sayeret Matkal is Israel's most elite special forces unit. It operates deep behind enemy lines. Its missions are secret. Its soldiers are among the best trained in the world. To be accepted is an honor few receive. Benjamin Netanyahu is accepted. The boy who grew up between 2 worlds has made his choice. He is no longer a student in Philadelphia. He's a soldier in Israel. And his training is just beginning. In our next chapter, we go inside the world of Sayeret Matkal, one of the most secretive military units on Earth. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. Inside the Israel Defense Forces, there are soldiers. And then there are the few who go further. Sayeret Matkal. The name is not widely advertised. Its missions are classified. Its soldiers do not speak of what they do. It is Israel's most secretive special forces unit, modeled loosely on the British Special Air Service, the SAS. Its purpose is simple and extraordinarily difficult. Gather intelligence deep behind enemy lines, rescue hostages, carry out operations that no other unit can. To be accepted into Sayeret Matkal, a soldier must pass one of the most demanding selection processes in the world. Physical endurance beyond what most men can imagine. Psychological pressure designed to break the weak. Tests of judgment, of courage, of character. Benjamin Netanyahu passes. He trains alongside some of the most capable young men in Israel. He learns to move silently in darkness, to make decisions under extreme pressure, to lead, to follow, to survive. He serves in Sayeret Matkal for 5 years, from 1967 to 1972. During this time, he takes part in numerous cross-border operations, raids into hostile territory, missions that are never publicly discussed. He rises through the ranks. He earns the respect of his commanders. In 1972, General Mordechai Gur, chief of Israel's Northern Command, personally cites Benjamin Netanyahu for outstanding operational leadership. It is a rare honor given to very few. The boy from Philadelphia and Jerusalem has become something else entirely. A soldier, a leader, a man forged under pressure. But his most dangerous mission is still ahead of him. In our next chapter, we follow Benjamin Netanyahu to an airport, to a hijacked plane, to a moment where everything could go wrong. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is May 8, 1972. Sabena Airlines Flight 5071 takes off from Brussels, Belgium. It is headed to Tel Aviv, Israel. There are 90 passengers on board and a crew of 10. Somewhere over Europe, 4 hijackers take control of the plane. They are members of the Black September organization, a Palestinian militant group. They force the pilot to land at Lod Airport near Tel Aviv. The hijackers have demands. They want Israel to release over 300 Palestinian prisoners. Israel does not negotiate with terrorists. Instead, a plan is set in motion. Sayeret Matkal is called. Benjamin Netanyahu is 22 years old. He's part of the rescue team assembled for this mission. The plan is precise and dangerous. Soldiers will disguise themselves as aircraft mechanics. They will approach the plane slowly, calmly, without raising alarm. And then, on a signal, they will storm the aircraft, neutralize the hijackers, and bring the passengers out alive. There is very little room for error. On the afternoon of May 9th, the operation begins. The soldiers approach the plane dressed in white overalls, tools in hand, walking slowly. Then the signal comes. They move fast. The doors are breached simultaneously. Shots are fired inside the cabin. Within minutes, it is over. Both hijackers inside the plane are killed. The 2 outside are captured. All 90 passengers are rescued alive. But not without cost. Benjamin Netanyahu is shot in the shoulder. during the operation. It is a wound he will carry for the rest of his life, a reminder of that afternoon on the tarmac, of how close everything came to going wrong. The operation is considered one of the most successful hostage rescues in Israeli military history. Benjamin Netanyahu returns to his unit, wounded but alive. In our next chapter, we follow him back to America, to the lecture halls of MIT, into a new chapter in his life. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1972. Benjamin Netanyahu has served 5 years in the Israel Defense Forces. He is trained in the shadows. He has carried out secret missions. He has been wounded in battle. Now at 22 years old, he is discharged from active duty, and he returns to America. This time, not as a teenager searching for belonging, but as a young man with a purpose. He enrolls at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. He studies architecture, a discipline of structure, of precision of design, of seeing how individual pieces come together to form something lasting. At the same time, he takes courses at Harvard University. He studies political science. He reads deeply, he thinks carefully. He debates ideas with some of the sharpest minds in America. His professors notice him immediately. Professor Leon Groisser at MIT would later recall that Netanyahu was exceptionally bright, organized, focused, powerful in his thinking, a student who knew exactly what he wanted and how to achieve it. Benjamin completes his bachelor's degree in architecture in just 2.5 years. But his studies are not uninterrupted. In October 1973, war breaks out again in Israel. Egypt and Syria launch a surprise attack on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. Benjamin does not hesitate. He leaves MIT. He flies back to Israel. He returns to his unit. He fights in the Yom Kippur War. When the fighting ends, he returns to Massachusetts. He finishes his degree, and then he earns a master's degree in business management from the MIT Sloan School of Management. 2 degrees from one of the world's great universities, interrupted by war, completed with determination. After graduating, he takes a position at the Boston Consulting Group, one of the most respected firms in the world. He works as an economic consultant. He's building something quietly, a mind sharp enough for politics, a resume that commands respect, a voice that people stop to listen to. But something is about to happen that will change everything. In our next chapter, we return to Israel, to a raid in Uganda, and to a loss that Benjamin Netanyahu will carry for the rest of his life. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is October 1973. Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting in a classroom at MIT. He is studying building his future, planning the next chapter of his life. Then the news arrives. It is Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, a day of fasting, of prayer, of silence. And on this day, Egypt and Syria launch a coordinated surprise attack against Israel. The attack comes from two directions at once. Egyptian forces cross the Suez Canal in the south. Syrian forces storm the Golan Heights in the north. Israel is caught off guard. The early hours are desperate. Soldiers scramble, commanders make impossible decisions. The nation holds its breath. Benjamin Netanyahu does not wait. He leaves his studies at MIT. He flies back to Israel. He reports to his unit. He fights. The Yom Kippur War lasts 19 days. It is brutal. It is costly. More than 2,000 Israeli soldiers lose their lives. But Israel holds. When the fighting ends, Benjamin returns to Massachusetts. He goes back to his books, his lectures, his degree. He finishes his bachelor's degree in architecture. Then he earns a master's degree in business management from the MIT Sloan School of Management. In 1976, he graduates. He takes a position at the Boston Consulting Group, working as an economic consultant in Boston. Quiet work, careful work, learning how organizations think, how decisions are made. On the outside, he looks like any young professional building a career. But inside, something is shifting. A pull, a calling, a sense of unfinished purpose. And then, in the summer of 1976, something happens thousands of miles away that will bring everything into focus. In our next chapter, we travel to Uganda, to an airport called Entebbe, into the night that changed Benjamin Netanyahu forever. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is the summer of 1976. Benjamin Netanyahu is 26 years old. He is working in Boston, building his career, planning his future. And his older brother Yonatan is back in Israel, serving in Sayeret Matkal, the same elite unit where they both once trained. Yonatan Netanyahu, the brother Benjamin admired more than anyone. Strong, principled, fearless. On June 27, 1976, an Air France plane is hijacked shortly after takeoff from Athens, Greece. The hijackers are members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine and a German militant group. They force the plane to fly to Entebbe, Uganda, where the Ugandan government of Idi Amin gives them shelter and support. There are over 100 hostages on board, most of them Israeli citizens. The hijackers separate the Jewish passengers from the others. The non-Jewish hostages are released. The Jewish hostages remain. The world watches and waits. Israel makes a decision. Sayeret Matkal will fly to Uganda, more than 4,000 kilometers away, in the middle of the night, and bring the hostages home. Yonatan Netanyahu is chosen to lead the raid. On the night of July 3rd and 4th, 1976, Israeli transport planes land silently at Entebbe airport. The operation is swift, precise, extraordinary. In less than 90 minutes, the hostages are rescued. The hijackers are neutralized. The planes begin the long flight home. But something has gone wrong. Yonatan Netanyahu has been shot. He is the only Israeli soldier killed in the operation. He dies at Entebbe airport. He's 30 years old. When Benjamin hears the news, something changes inside him. Something that can never be undone. His brother, his closest friend, his hero, gone. Benjamin Netanyahu would later say that the loss of Yoni was the defining moment of his life. Not a political event, not a military victory, the death of his brother. And from that grief, a purpose was born. In our next chapter, we see how Benjamin channels that loss into action, into advocacy, into the beginning of a public life. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. The year is 1978. Benjamin Netanyahu is 28 years old. He has left Boston behind. He has left his career at the consulting firm behind. He has returned to Israel. The death of his brother Yonatan has given him a sense of mission that no office job could satisfy. If Yoni gave his life fighting terrorism, then Benjamin would dedicate his life to making sure the world understood what terrorism truly was. He founds an organization. He names it the Yonatan Institute in honor of his brother. The Yonatan Institute has one purpose: to study international terrorism, to educate governments and leaders around the world about the nature of the threat. Benjamin organizes conferences. He invites politicians, military leaders, and scholars from across the Western world. He stands at podiums and speaks clearly, carefully, powerfully. His English is perfect. His arguments are structured and precise. His presence is commanding. People begin to notice him. In 1982, he is appointed to the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. He serves as a diplomat, learning the rhythms of international politics, meeting the men and women who shape world events. And then, in 1984, he receives one of the most significant appointments of his early career. Benjamin Netanyahu is named Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. He's 34 years old. At the United Nations in New York, he finds a stage unlike any he has stood on before. 150 nations. Cameras, microphones, the weight of history in every session. He speaks, and the room listens. During his time at the United Nations, he leads a successful campaign to declassify UN archives on Nazi war crimes, bringing hidden history into the light. He serves as ambassador until 1988. 4 years of diplomacy, 4 years of building a reputation as one of Israel's most articulate voices. He is no longer just a soldier, no longer just a scholar. He's becoming a statesman. In our next chapter, we follow Benjamin Netanyahu through the doors of the Knesset into the arena of Israeli politics. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1988. Benjamin Netanyahu has spent 4 years at the United Nations in New York. 4 years of speeches, of negotiations, of learning how the world truly works. Now he is ready for the next step. He returns to Israel, and he enters politics. In 1988, Benjamin Netanyahu is elected to the Knesset, Israel's parliament, as a member of the Likud party. Likud is a right-wing party, founded on principles of national strength, Jewish sovereignty, and a firm approach to security. It is a natural home for Netanyahu. He is appointed Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, a significant role for a newcomer to Parliament. But Netanyahu is not really a newcomer. He has spent years building relationships with world leaders and diplomats. He speaks the language of international politics fluently. He is sharp in interviews, confident on television, precise in debate. He becomes one of the most recognizable faces of Israeli politics at home and abroad. Then, in 1993, something remarkable happens. Benjamin Netanyahu is elected chairman of the Likud party. He is 43 years old, and he is now leader of the opposition, facing the government of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. It is a turbulent time in Israeli politics. The Oslo Accords are being negotiated. A peace process is underway with the Palestinians. The country is divided, passionate, uncertain. Netanyahu is a vocal and forceful critic of the Oslo process. He argues that security must come before peace, that agreements must be built on strength. The debate is fierce. The stakes are enormous. And then, in 1995, Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin is assassinated. Israel is in shock. New elections are called. Benjamin Netanyahu will face the Labour Party's Shimon Peres, a giant of Israeli politics, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. No one gives Netanyahu much chance of winning. In our next chapter, we follow him into that election, into the most important campaign of his life, and into the office of Prime Minister. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1996. Israel is holding a general election. For the first time in the country's history, citizens will vote directly for their prime minister. On one side stands Shimon Peres, a towering figure in Israeli politics, a man who has served his country for decades, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. On the other side stands Benjamin Netanyahu, 46 years old, leader of the Likud party, a man many considered too young, too inexperienced, too ambitious. The polls favor Peres. But Netanyahu campaigns with extraordinary energy. He travels across the country. He speaks in town squares and community halls. He appears on television night after night. His message is clear and consistent. Security first. Peace must be built on strength. Israel cannot afford to be naive. On election night, the country holds its breath. The result is extraordinarily close. Benjamin Netanyahu defeats Shimon Peres by less than 30,000 votes out of nearly 3 million cast. It is one of the narrowest election victories in Israeli history. Benjamin Netanyahu becomes Prime Minister of Israel. He is 46 years old. The boy from Tel Aviv and Philadelphia, the soldier from Sayeret Matkal, the diplomat from the United Nations, now stands at the head of a nation. His first term is complex and demanding. He oversees the Hebron Agreement in 1997, a partial withdrawal of Israeli forces from the city of Hebron. He signs the Wye River Memorandum in 1998, an agreement designed to advance the peace process with the Palestinians. But governing is harder than campaigning. His coalition is fragile. His partners are demanding. Criticism comes from all directions. By 1999, his government collapses. New elections are called. And this time, the result goes the other way. In our next chapter, we follow Benjamin Netanyahu through defeat through the wilderness and through the long road back. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1999. Benjamin Netanyahu has just lost the election to Ehud Barak of the Labour Party. The defeat is decisive. Barak wins by a significant margin. The Israeli public has spoken clearly. Netanyahu steps down as leader of Likud. He resigns his seat in the Knesset. He steps away from public life entirely. For a man who has spent his entire adult life in service and uniform in the spotlight, the silence is profound. He is 49 years old, and for the first time in decades, he has no title, no office, no public role. He returns to the private sector. He works as a consultant. He gives lectures, he writes. He watches from a distance as Israel navigates a turbulent period. The years that follow are difficult ones for Israel. The peace process breaks down. Violence escalates across the region. The Second Intifada brings waves of attacks to Israeli cities and towns. Netanyahu watches and waits. In 2002, he makes his return. He wins back his seat in the Knesset. Prime Minister Ariel Sharon appoints him foreign minister. Then, in 2003, Netanyahu is appointed finance minister. It is a role that surprises many. Netanyahu is known as a security hawk, a man of defense and diplomacy. But he approaches economics with the same discipline and precision he once applied to military strategy. He implements sweeping economic reforms. He cuts government spending. He reduces bureaucracy. He opens Israel's economy to greater competition and investment. The reforms are painful for many Israelis. They are controversial, debated fiercely. But over time, they help lay the foundation for one of the fastest growing economies in the developed world. In 2005, a major political shift occurs. Ariel Sharon leaves Likud and forms a new centrist party called Kadima. Netanyahu once again becomes leader of the Likud party. He rebuilds, he reorganizes, he prepares. The wilderness years are ending. In our next chapter, we follow Benjamin Netanyahu back to the top, to the office he once held, and to the longest chapter of his career. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is February 2009. Israel has just held a general election. The results are close, complicated. No single party has won a clear majority. But after weeks of negotiations, Benjamin Netanyahu is asked to form a government. He becomes Prime Minister of Israel for the second time. He is 59 years old, and this time, he will not leave quietly. Netanyahu governs through one of the most turbulent periods in modern Israeli history. He wins re-election in 2013, again in 2015, again in 2019. Year after year, election after election, Benjamin Netanyahu remains at the center of Israeli political life. He builds relationships with world leaders. He travels constantly. He speaks at the United Nations General Assembly. Year after year, warning about threats to Israel's security, about nuclear programs, about the dangers facing the region. His speeches are watched around the world. His words are debated, analyzed, quoted. Under his leadership, Israel's economy grows significantly. The country becomes a global center for technology and innovation, known around the world as the startup nation. But his years in power are not without difficulty. In 2019, Netanyahu is indicted on charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. He denies all wrongdoing. His trial begins and continues for years. Political instability follows. Israel holds 4 elections in the space of 2 years. In 2021, a broad coalition government removes Netanyahu from office. He becomes leader of the opposition. But in November 22, he wins again. Benjamin Netanyahu returns to power for the 3rd time. He is now Israel's longest-serving prime minister, a record that no one before him has reached. More than 15 years in the highest office, across decades of history, through wars and peace talks, through victories and defeats, through loss and grief and determination. From a boy born in Tel Aviv in 1949, to a teenager in Philadelphia, to a soldier in the shadows, to a diplomat at the United Nations, to the longest-serving leader in his country's history. The story of Benjamin Netanyahu is the story of a man who never stopped moving forward. Whatever one thinks of his politics, whatever judgment history will ultimately make, the journey itself is extraordinary. A life lived fully, in service of a country he has loved since the day he was born. Tonight, we have followed that journey together, from the very beginning to where it stands today. Now rest. The story has been told. Sleep well.